Undertone is a 2025 Canadian horror film written and directed by Ian Tuason and stars Nina Kiri and Adam DiMarco. The plot follows Evie and Justin of the Undertone Paranormal Research Podcast as they receive sound files anonymously that are unlike anything they've ever heard before. True evil caught on tape. So apparently this movie has a kind of a hype train going on or whatever. I think it mostly evaded me. I wouldn't say that I've heard that much chatter, but other people have. So I guess the hype involved, this being a very, very scary movie, and a lot of people are saying, nah, not really. Personally, man, these days I kind of like hype, or maybe it's just that I'm glad that people still fucking get excited about things. I mean, it's almost hard to believe, but and I was kind of stoked for this one. Not that it looked like particularly original or anything like that, but it did feel something, maybe like, something we haven't seen for a while. And not only that, but a style of horror that maybe wasn't ever really done to death, like some other styles and genres and stuff like that. So, after watching it, I kind of get like maybe 2010 vibes. Not in a bad way at all, but when I saw the trailer a few months ago, I thought it was going to kind of go in a different direction. Something like, honestly, this was my thought process, and if you watch my trailer reaction or whatever, I guess you'll understand. But I kind of expected something like White Noise from 2005. A movie that I actually have a soft spot for. It's not particularly great, but I do like it. Undertone is actually not like that at all. In case maybe you thought the same thing. I don't know. I mean, they both have the whole like audio horror thing going on. But White Noise was more about spirits existing in a realm accessible through audio technology. I think that's a good way to explain it. As to where Undertone just uses audio as its kind of like as its horror gimmick. And as decent of an idea as it is, I don't think that we got the intended results. You do learn early on, to pay attention to sounds, especially when Evie and Justin are, wearing headphones and recording their podcast. At times it's hard to tell if a sound is coming through Evie's headphones, or if it's coming from somewhere in the house. I guess I also expected more of like an isolated story or one that just kind of focuses on the podcast. But there's definitely, there's more to it than just that. But there is a decent amount of, character backstory with Evie, which I liked. At first you see her as this carefree, happy person, and then you learn that she's, stuck in a bad relationship, and she also takes care of her mom who's in a coma. And this actually did kind of remind me a bit of just that aspect of the film. Kind of reminded me of stop motion, one of my favorite horror gems from 2023. It does add more depth to Evie's character and the overall story, because Evie feels guilty about her mom being so helpless. And there's also some religious and like demonology aspects, maybe a little folk horror, which is cool by me. I really do like religious horror. Not like movies made for religious people, but stuff like The Exorcist, the Omen. I think you get it. One interesting thing about this movie is that you only ever see Evie and her mom. Her mom's comatose, so you don't see her a lot. She's bedridden, but you see Evie constantly. But that's all. You only really ever see them too. With Justin, you only ever hear his voice, like on the phone or on the podcast or whatever. And I actually think that it's really cool. It does work, and we've seen this work in movies like Pontypool. Don't see a lot of characters in that movie. I think there's just one. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but you get the point. Adam DiMarco actually does a really good job at bringing Justin to life, just via audio. It's something that could have totally fell apart, and he totally made it work. And it's actually kind of funny how it feels like a movie that has more characters than it really does, but in a good way. And I will also give some credit for Evie and Justin's, friendship feeling real, even though, you never see Justin. It's just a hard thing to do, I think. It does take some extra attention and skill, and it's often overlooked by a lot of modern filmmakers. For me, if I don't feel like a genuine connection between the leads, it's distracting in a bad way, so credit where credit is due. Cinematography here, too, it's solid across the board. At times the camera, will kind of pan around the room, even like in rooms that the characters aren't in. It's a little bit unique, I guess, giving it a cool, kind of supernatural vibe as intended, I guess. And the movie looks good. It really does look good for, I think it was $500,000 budget. The acting Very solid. Like I said, I like the leads enough. The sound design is cool, I guess, but I do have some negatives. Beginning with the story, the first, I know podcasters historically haven't really, made for very good characters, but here it actually does make perfect sense. So that's not a complaint. That works. But I actually wanted to know more about the Undertone podcast, which you really don't see that much of. I was hoping maybe you'd see some of their past episodes or whatever. Maybe just a little bit something more. It is a 94-minute movie, so I guess maybe stretching it to 2 hours, would have been an option. Or maybe taking out Evie's mom's kind of story, and focusing more on the podcast would have worked better for me. I mean, I get it. I get it. With a comatose old woman, there's plenty of scare opportunities and all that. And like I said, it did add depth to Evie's character, so I'm split on that one, I guess. But again, I think I would have rather, spent time learning more about the podcast. I guess I have to be vague about the decisions made involving Evie's mom, because I'm going for no major spoilers like I always do, even if in my opinion there isn't really a lot to spoil here. I guess there are theories about her mom and ultimately what happens with her in the third act. But my take is that the story here is just kind of sloppy. That's the way I took it, not being open to interpretation, and I also took it as a plot hole personally. You might feel different about that. I hope you know what I mean if you've seen the movie. And of course I could be wrong about the plot hole, but I stand by the story being a little bit sloppy. Overall, I think the concept for Undertone is pretty cool. It is kind of my thing. But, the way that the story is written is it's unfortunately pretty generic. The whole sound design thing is cool, but it does kind of fizzle out when the story is just not that interesting. Another thing Undertone has a reputation for, like I said, is being just super scary. And I really didn't think that this movie was very scary at all. If this is an entry-level horror movie for you, you're probably going to be scared. But if you've watched horror for decades, like a lot of us have, and we've seen so much, I don't remember ever jumping or feeling creeped out or feeling genuinely disturbed at any point in this movie. But that's just me. Might scare the shit out of you. I don't know. I don't think it will. So the 10 audio files that are sent to Evie and Justin, and the story we got from it is just it is at least somewhat interesting, but it's not something that hasn't been done and been done better, man. Like I said, that the podcast thing and the audio driven story is cool to me, but it wasn't enough to save this movie for me, at least. So I'm giving Undertone a 2 out of 4 stars. I think it's just okay. I know that A24 put their name on it, but it feels more like, to me, it feels more like maybe one of the more decent Blumhouse releases or something. Like a solid Blumhouse, not the lower end, and not quite the higher end either, because they have put out some good stuff. It's just okay. I'm not really sure who I would recommend this to. It's worth a watch, but it's not one that will be sticking with me. I probably would watch this again, to be honest, and I guess that second watch would really solidify whether I would ever watch it again or not. So yeah, it's worth one watch, maybe even 2. But for me, I think that's probably it. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex. Subscribe right now, please.